What if I told you that one single Bible verse could challenge everything you thought you knew about Protestant theology? And what if I told you that the very idea of Bible alone or sola scriptura actually contradicts the Bible itself? I'm Alex Arnold from Arnie's Brain Train, and today we're diving into not just the explosive passage that Martin Luther couldn't explain away, but also the philosophical house of cards that's been propping up some major Protestant doctrines. Buckle up, because this might change how you see Christianity forever. Before we jump into our main topic, let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in ancient Jerusalem with two powerful religious groups fighting for control, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Think of this like a modern-day political party split, but with way more at stake. The Sadducees, who were basically the religious elite, had a problem. The Pharisees, their rivals, had written this incredibly important historical book that supported their beliefs about life after death. Dr. Lawrence Schiffman, in his groundbreaking work, From Text to Tradition, explains that this wasn't just theological squabbling. It was about power, influence, and controlling the narrative of Judaism itself. The Sadducees, who only accepted the Torah, or the 5 books of Moses, were facing a serious challenge from the Pharisees, who recognized a broader canon of Scripture. But here's where it gets fascinating. Jesus himself seemed to side with the Pharisees on many issues, particularly regarding resurrection. Dr. Amy Jill Levine's The Misunderstood Jew points out that Jesus' teachings align much more closely with the Pharisaic Judaism than with Sadducean theology. Let's talk about 2 Maccabees now. Dr. Gary A. Anderson, in his work The Genesis of Perfection, demonstrates how this book was far more than just historical record. It was a theological bridge between Old and New Testament understanding of death, resurrection, and prayer. In 2 Maccabees chapter 12, verse 43 through 45, we find the passage that we're looking at. He also took up a collection and sent it to Jerusalem to provide for a sin offering. In doing this, he acted very well and honorably. Therefore, he made atonement for the dead, so that they might be delivered from their sin. Dr. Robert Wilkin, in The First 1,000 Years, shows that this practice wasn't some late addition to Judaism. It was a standard practice among first-century Jews. The Dead Sea Scrolls, as analyzed by Dr. John Collins in Beyond the Qumran Community, contain similar ideas about prayers for the dead. Now, let's tackle something that's really going to make the Protestants upset. The idea of sola scriptura, or Bible alone, actually contradicts itself, and here's why. Number 1. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 16 is often cited to support sola scriptura, but as Dr. Robert Sungenis points out, when Paul says not by Scripture alone, he's referring to the Old Testament. The New Testament didn't even exist yet. So, is he saying the New Testament is not correct? Number 2. John chapter 21 verse 25 explicitly states that not everything Jesus did and taught was written down. Dr. Scott Hahn's Covenant and Communion demonstrates how this verse alone challenges the sufficiency claim of sola scriptura. Basically, if Jesus taught something that wasn't written down in the Bible, did Jesus teach something wrong? And number 3, the knockout punch. Nowhere in Scripture does it tell us which books belong in Scripture. Dr. Brant Petree's Why We Trust the Gospels shows how the canon itself came from church tradition, the very thing sola scriptura rejects. Now, let's dive into another fascinating problem, the doctrine of creation ex nihilo, from nothing. This concept, while popular, faces serious philosophical and biblical challenges. Dr. John Walton, in The Lost World of Genesis 1, demonstrates that the Hebrew word bara doesn't necessarily mean creation from nothing. The focus on that word in the Hebrew language is function and order, not material origins. Additionally, Dr. William Lane Craig's work on divine action shows how ex nihilo creates philosophical problems. First, if nothing exists, then God can't act on it. Nothing would have no properties. Second, the Bible never explicitly states creation from nothing. And third, ancient Hebrew cosmology focused on ordering chaos, not creating from the void. Now, let's take a look at what the earliest Christians actually believed. Dr. Johannes Quasten's Patrology provides fascinating insights. First, the Clement of Rome in 96 AD quoted from deuterocanonical books as scripture, and Justin Martyr, 150 AD, referenced these texts in defending Christian doctrine. And finally, Irenaeus in 180 AD used these scriptures to combat heresy. One of the main reasons that many books of the Apocrypha were kept from the main canon were because of their historical inaccuracy. But recent archaeological discoveries keep confirming the historical accuracy of this book. Dr. Eric Meyer's Alexander de Constantine documents multiple findings that align perfectly with the Maccabean accounts. So, if these books were used by so many people for so long, why were these books removed? Dr. Diarmid McCullough's The Reformation reveals some uncomfortable truths. If Luther would have had his way, he also would have removed James, Revelation, and Hebrews too. The removal coincided with theological disputes about purgatory and prayers for the dead, and early Protestant Bibles actually included these books. Here's the kicker. Even Luther admitted his problems with these books were theological, not historical. Dr. Timothy George's Reading Scriptures with the Reformers shows that Luther really struggled with texts that contradicted his new doctrines. So, why does this history even matter? It challenges our assumptions about biblical authority. If books can be removed, how can the Bible be the authority? It reveals the political nature of canon formation, and it shows how theology can influence what's actually in the Bible today. Dr. James Charlesworth's, in his book, The Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, demonstrates how these books provide crucial historical context for understanding Jesus' world. Here's the ultimate challenge. If we reject church authority for determining the canon, how do we know which books belong in the Bible? Dr. Peter Kreeft's Catholic Christianity points out this logical impossibility. We can't use the Bible to prove which books belong in the Bible, and we can't rely on private interpretation. Look how many denominations that's created. What we need is an authority outside the Scripture to authenticate the Scripture, almost as if we need more Scripture. So decide for yourself, but the evidence is pretty overwhelming. These books were used by Jesus' contemporaries. Early Christians accepted them as scripture, and their removal was politically motivated. Sola Scriptura in itself is self-defeating, and ex nihilo isn't biblically necessary in the first place. Whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, or just curious about religion, these facts should make you think. Maybe it's time we all took a closer look at what was removed from our Bibles and why. Well, thanks for joining us. If you found this video enlightening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to join Arnie's Brain Train for more mind-expanding content about religion, history, and just all the questions that challenge our assumptions. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about these controversial topics, and bonus points if you can name the religion that still does work for the dead. Until next time, keep thinking critically and questioning everything. This is Arnie signing off. See you next time.